Uh, Share screen.
And thank you for sending everything ahead of time. It
Yeah.
really helps.
Yeah, Deb.
Excellent.
Oh, you're welcome. Go to slideshow mode. Oops. Can everybody see the screen?
No.
No.
No, I do not.
Okay, so let me go back.
Yes, we
There we
can.
go.
Okay, good. Okay, everybody can still see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
It's
great.
good.
All right. Okay, so good morning. I think for some of you, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to our first Strategic Sourcing Steering Committee in about 13 years. As the vendor was saying a minute ago, this was originally the first steering committee the BSMA had way back then. And then, in all honesty, the reason it sort of went away is because my own personal um, profession moved from responsibility primarily to purchasing and strategic sourcing to more of a clinical supply chain role. So I started that steering committee to get more acclimated to best practices and learning what, frankly, I knew very little about to get up to speed and to be able to do my job effectively. So fast forward, that steering committee is on cruise control, and there's been a lot of requests to resurrect this particular steering committee again. So here we are. So what I wanted to do is very quickly in the beginning of this call go over a little background about BSMA, since for many of you who haven't been involved in the other steering committees, it might be useful to know a little more about BSMA, how we operate, and so forth. So for the agenda, which I'm seeing on the screen here, is I'm going to start by very quickly going having people go over just their name and company. They don't need to talk about their background and their title or anything like that. So I'll come back to that in a minute. Then a little information about BSMA, its other steering committees, its website, the annual conference that's coming up next March. Then I have a poll that's going to be planned, that I have planned here, that primarily is intended to find out a little about all of you. What do you buy, direct, indirect, or what commodities? What are your challenges and so forth? And that will hopefully help carry us into what I think is the meat of the meeting today, which is given what we do and what we know, what we want, what should our charter look like, and what are the topics that we want to have for upcoming meetings, the conference, webinars, and so forth. And last but not least, the last slide mentions proposed meeting date for our next meeting. So with that said, since I have the slide in front of me, I can't see who the attendees are. So Devendra, can I go to you and have you call out the name that you see under the attendees, and then if everybody could for a minute get off mute, and when he calls the name, if you could give your full name and company.
So let me do that. Thank you, Bill. Let me pick the one who's joined us for the first time, Jose Cara. Jose?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Jose Caraballo. I work for Kite Pharma, Gilead Company, in the area of quality. Nice to meet you all. I was invited by Marina.
Ken Duval.
Sure. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Ken Duval. I'm with Takeda.
Kate Heeman.
Hey, Kate Tiemann with Uniphar Clinical.
Tammy
Glad to be
Bishop.
here.
Tammy Bishop, I'm with Acnos Pharma.
My great friend Mark Buck.
Hi there, Mark Buck with Twist Bioscience.
Sasha Sonnenberg.
Well, you mentioned the name, so Sasha Sonnenberg with Zanaclis.
Marcus Bulovas.
Marcus Blovas with Scale Up Consulting.
Jent Afale.
With ATR Pharma.
My friend for more than 15 years, Marina Grisulji.
Yeah. Cedar Sinai Medical Center currently.
Is there anyone else I do not see on the screen?
Yeah,
Mike Mitchell.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Mike Mitchell, Fisher Clinical Services, part of Thermo Fisher Scientific.
Oh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Horton. I work with Kay at Uniphar Clinical.
And I thought I saw Paulius on the.
Yes, that's right. Good afternoon, good morning. Paulius Kizelauskas. I am with BM Clinical, part of Uniphar, together with Peter and Kay as well.
Great.
And I know Keisha, who's one of our co-chairs, is on the can't talk right now, but she'll be live on the call momentarily.
Hi, I can introduce myself, Keisha Mitchell from Gilead Sciences.
Thank you, Keisha. Is Shesh on the line yet? Okay. Did we miss?
I'm Sanjay Kucheria with Rhinus Corporation.
And I'm
Anyone else?
Tim Jordan with Siemens Healthineers.
Morning. Thanks for joining, Tim. Anyone else?
That's Paul Anderson with Guardant Health.
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. So, very briefly, wanted to let you know that the BSMA has a number of steering committees. The screen I'm showing you now lists all of them: clinical supply, cell and gene therapy. There's a couple that are commercial focused, digital transformation, transportation and logistics. There's an industry and university initiative. And as you see in red here, we have now the Strategic Sourcing Steering Committee, which are co-chaired by the names you see on that list. I believe Shesh will be joining us momentarily. Keisha, you just heard her introduce herself on the phone. And Christopher Jacks, unfortunately, is on a plane right now and unable to attend this meeting. Not to get too far ahead of myself, but using the Clinical Supply Chain Steering Committee as an example, when that particular steering committee started, 5 years ago, no, actually a little more than that, it started off as a steering committee just like this one. And over time, it realized that it wanted to take deeper dives into areas and also to enable and bring together subject matter experts in various areas. They also wanted to use it to help develop their staffs or enable their staffs who might be subject matter experts in areas that the head of the supply chain maybe wasn't as familiar with. So the end result was, as you see on this slide, in addition to the steering committee, there are work stream groups that cover the areas that you see here. So again, not to get ahead of myself, but over time, if this particular steering committee wants to branch out and involve itself in other matters, or have people in your departments that you want to get involved in, I don't know, whatever the case may be, commodity teams, whatever. That's certainly something that we can enable if and when the time comes. Any questions before we go further? Okay. Also wanted to bring your attention to the BSMA website. Here's the link on the bottom. And on that website, among other things, you'll see drop downs that will list the steering committees, workstream group information, dates for upcoming meetings, webinars, and so forth. So if you are interested in joining another steering committee, or if you have someone else in your company or department that you want to join another committee, another workstream group, or also to register for an event, whether a meeting or a webinar, you can do all that online by going to this website. Next, every year, and it's typically been in March, BSMA holds an annual conference in Foster City, which is just south of San Francisco Airport. This year's event is March 18th and 19th. As we've done in the past, there will be 2 days of plenary sessions, panel discussions, including an event identified by this group. Up for discussion will be whether or not they want to do any workshops or roundtables. And if in some of the other steering committees in work stream groups have almost 100% said yes, they would like to do that. And so we're gravitating to having this third day probably on March 17th. So we'll talk more about that later on in this call. Not that it needs to be these topics, but some examples of topics that this group might want to host during this event you see on this website. Again, I think when we do the poll, we'll have a better idea with the poll and with the discussion after the poll, just what topics resonate from this group. And again, we'll cover that later. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing for a minute. Go to the poll. Can people see the poll?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take, it shouldn't take 4 minutes or so, 5 at the most. Can everybody go online and answer the questions to this, and then we'll go over it?
I do not need a QR code, Bill.
No.
Thank you.
Bill, the survey disappeared on me.
Same
I was
here.
just about to say the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
I thought I clicked and submitted it.
Oh.
I don't think I clicked on submit it.
All right, so let me go back and see. It says poll ended. Somebody may have pushed a button. So you can't see it now, correct?
Correct.
Nope.
Huh. Try one more time.
Just your way to validate that we will enter the same information like the first time.
Well, that's what I was trying to do, but it says poll ended, so it's not letting me redo it. I'm gonna get out and get back in and see what happens. Oh, all right. I guess we'll have to go to Plan B, which is just carry on the conversation to get people's answers. So, because the information I see here only has 2 people answering so far. So I apologize for this. So why don't I let's use a raise hand. We have about 20 folks on the call. And question 1, raise your hand if you do commercial only. No, raise your hand on the, is there a button where you can, down the bottom? No?
You can put like this, like a thumbs up.
Yeah, okay.
You
I
might
can't
be
see
overwhelmed if we.
Okay. Who put in, you can't have more than 1 thumb. I couldn't see. What did we?
If you click react at the bottom and then raise hand instead of the thumbs up, like
Okay.
that.
Oh. Okay. Oh, well, actually, that's going to take too long. I'm going to, at the risk of making this feel unorganized, if everybody's off of mute, let's shout out to everybody who just does commercial.
Yes.
It's me.
Okay. All right. So a modest amount just does clinical. And has responsibility for both clinical and commercial purchasing.
Me.
Okay, so my unscientific assessment sounds like most people are doing both clinical and commercial. Okay. Second question, and I apologize again for this. At the end of the call, I will email everybody the survey over again to do. Okay. How many are responsible for direct purchases?
I am.
Okay. Yeah, I think raising your hands is the easiest thing. Okay. How many just for indirect?
Bill, just a comment. We will have the questions with multiple answers. Maybe you really just send out the survey and we complete it and send it back to you, because when we get to the multiple answers, it might become a little bit of a chaos.
Yeah. Understood. Okay. And who does both direct and indirect? Raising hands. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The next question should be a little easier because there's specific areas. How many of you have responsibility for negotiating or managing contract manufacturing, CDMOs, CMOs, and so forth? So I'd really like to find out how many hands. I can't see everybody's hands, but a fair number. Okay. How many raise of hands does that responsibility include comparators? I can't see everybody's hands, but I saw at least two besides Paulius and Sasha. Did anyone else raise a hand on that?
Only Sasha.
No, one other. Paulius. Okay, so two. And responsibility for negotiating your distributors, logistics providers in areas like that. Okay. I'm going to skip the commodity question for now and go right to what I think is the most important part of the today's call, which is to I'm going to reach out, ask each person. I'll call out the name, and I'm going to ask you to indicate what do you consider your top one or two challenges. So I'll start with Sasha.
Sorry, can you repeat? I was distracted, I have to admit.
From a procurement, strategic sourcing perspective, what do you consider the top one or two
Quality of service and availability.
Okay. Mark.
Yeah, I would say the same. Supply chain reliability, and digging into that, single source kind of supply chains. I'm constantly, battling that.
Okay, interesting. Ken Duval.
Sure, I'd say savings and regulatory and political environment globally.
Savings and regulatory. Okay. Peter Houghton.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I'm in a business development function, so I'm less directly involved in those sorts of negotiations, I guess.
Okay. Do you have clients that sort of lean on you for what they consider their top issues?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what
absolutely.
And what would that top one or two issues be?
The top two I would say would be timelines and cost.
Okay. Paulius?
First thing that came to my mind was the vendor selection, I guess, especially as we have multiple vendors usually to select from. But then the second, I would second to Sasha about quality.
And what do you mean by vendor selection as a challenge? A lack of vendor selection, or?
Oh, it's no, the opposite actually. The variety of vendors available for the customers to choose, or for us to choose as the customer. So choosing the right vendors to work with.
Okay. Marcos?
Everyone has mentioned quality and reliability, right? So in addition to that, development capabilities in the kind of phase 1, phase 2 space, analytical capabilities tends to be a challenge, right? To get the CDMOs that you want. And we're always having to source everything in pieces, right? Drug substance, drug product, as opposed to like a one-stop shop. So some people are interested in that.
Okay. How about Mike Mitchell?
Yeah, I would say recently a lot of it's been around negotiating tariff surcharges and things like that. It's certainly been top of mind, and I guess more broadly, just generating cost savings.
Okay. Sanjay Kushera?
Sorry, trying to toggle my screen here. So I'm in the I guess you could say provider space, focused on data analytics, and the key themes that keep coming up that we see through our clients' eyes are supply chain resilience and cost.
Okay. Tim Jordan?
I say supply chain and supplier reliability during the geopolitical climate we're currently in.
Okay. Paul Anderson?
Yeah, very similar to Mark Buck there, of having only sole suppliers to choose from, the opposite of Paulius's problem. And then the reliability of those single source suppliers. So if their particular batch, fails, then it's a scramble for us.
Okay. Tom Z.
Unfortunately, I can't add anything to it. As I'm on the technology side, I'm just listening to everyone and just to see how our platform could support all this ask.
Okay. Daniel Lasry. Maybe he's dropped off. Tammy, I know you interact with a lot of clients, so from your observations, what do you see?
Yeah, I think right now a lot of it's the supply chain reliability, especially with the inexpensive generics, the platinum-based chemotherapeutic agents, and the issues surrounding those. That's a big issue right now. Drug shortages.
Okay. Keisha? She could be walking into her office right now. I know she was dropping off her son to school. Marina.
Yes, it's tariff compliance and all the issues around it. Then I would say single source, obviously, it's always burning issue, and contract compliance from the perspective of innovation of suppliers, right? And how it's linked to the cost-effective consortium buying versus individual suppliers who are fighting for their space.
Okay.
That leads to bid analytics as well, So
yeah. Giant
Yeah.
Tafali.
Yes, Jayant Afale. So long lead time items on raw materials and consumables, simple things like filters and tubing sets, trade compliance, and costing.
Okay.
Thank you. So from a client perspective, on the supply side, we deal with a lot of small to medium-sized companies. So turnaround times, the ability to be agile and change if forecasting hasn't been stable, I think is a challenge. And then on the comparator side, shortages, I would echo Tammy's comment there.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? Now, one challenge I didn't hear, and I just wanted to confirm, because nobody was saying difficulty getting involved in big spend areas within your organization. Is that because it's not an issue and they all let you get involved in sourcing and negotiating all your big spend items? Or is that because well, just comments before I put words in people's mouths.
I think it's resource constraints, right? How much we can be stretched across different categories or areas. So that's why, right? It's unfortunately still low-hanging fruit rather than having enough people to dig into further.
Yeah. So let me put, thanks for saying that, Maria. So let me ask the question another way. If we think of the, 80-20 rule with, do people on this call feel that the majority of spend within your organization, strategic sourcing is playing an appropriate role?
I would say
Pretty
so
much.
for the direct. On the indirect, it's been, while we manage the suppliers now, or onboarding of 4,400 indirect suppliers. But most of that is bought for non-production use, sort of by design, sort of in there. So there's a lot of that we just haven't made a priority, like travel and other areas.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I agree with Paul. The same. I have access to it all. I just can't do it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lack of time. Okay, because one thing that I assumed I was going to hear and I haven't, so which I guess is a good thing, is in a lot of times, and maybe you folks are best practice in this sense, that in a lot of at least the small to medium-sized companies where the purchasing or strategic sourcing folks maybe don't have the experience or haven't been as effective as what it sounds like the folks on this call are.
Well, I'll answer that question a little differently, Bill. I think there are always some of those areas, like in our business, that are a little, kind of a third rail. Be careful touching it, right? You have some of that where they protect that, but that's, sometimes you think it's whatever, poultry or something else, but it's really it's a necessity the way it runs. You can't mess that up, and so you've got some of that. And again, it's because the way the process is set up and those things. But if you have the individual who's a specialist and they're gonna get in there and help them do that, almost everybody that I found in our business will take the support then if you get in and understand their process and do it their way. But then back to Paul's point, too many of them, right?
Yeah. But I know, but a lot of the big ticket purchases could be, for example, your contract manufacturers. In a lot of companies, at least I've been exposed to, the heads of manufacturing or the heads of tops wouldn't let purchasing come close to that. It's purchasing, you can do the raw materials, but we're gonna, don't come near our contract manufacturing or logistics owns the FedEx contract. That's not your job. So
But I think that goes back to how involved can you be, Bill?
Yeah.
That's, if you can, you got to get up to speed and, spend the time in there, because you got to understand that, to qualify somebody new in one of these things might take 2 years or 3 years. And so you gotta be, if you assign somebody in it for the long haul, and again, I'm talking from my experience now. Early on, I used to complain, oh, they're not letting me in. And then I realized, no, I just don't understand exactly what they're doing. And I need somebody who can get in there to do that. And again, there are some of those things you're saying, but most of the time it's because something's built around it and it's so critical, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe just feedback from my side. I think some of the services are more commoditized nowadays. Also, when we talk about some of the logistics work, I mean, cold chain is not anymore the magic that it was. It has been very much standardized. And to me, it's a lot about teamwork. So while, let's say, with logistics or manufacturing, you have, of course, the operational requirements, which are more difficult to assess from the procurement side. But there are the pricing, the contract negotiations and everything, which I think are more falling into the procurement responsibilities. So it's clearly defining what are your requirements and then agreeing on the responsibilities, who is covering which part, because the same as manufacturing is saying, hey, you don't understand what we actually want, they might not understand the financial impact or the financial saving possibilities and other areas that are related to onboarding a new vendor.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know how many of the people here own procurement, and if there is a procurement function, is it within your organization? Is it outside of your organization?
So in my case, it's supply chain, but peeling off the warehouse side of it, transportation. So from a direct buying perspective, that's where all of our attention goes to. And if we're not optimized in indirect, it's less of a worry. It's get the product out, get the product stable, make it reliable supply chain on there. And so things like real estate, the facilities team handles all the construction, all that. They deal with that. We don't. So legal picks its own co-counsel. Finance wants to pick their own auditors, so that we let them do. So, because I don't have the expertise nor a big enough staff to do all the indirect.
Bill, there were two challenges I did hear. One was lack of IT systems. And the other one was, is there a demand for carbon footprint reduction in the procurement you do?
Well, that goes also with the supplier selection, right? And as you were talking about, departments are still in silos, right? Different silo. And for the selecting the proper supplier requires resources, as I said, plus cross collaboration and alignment on goals. And that's not happening as frequently as should. As for the IT, I think that improved, at least where I work currently. And that's not an issue. It's more different departments keeping their own goals close to their heart rather than really reaching out and discussing and give us enough time to get involved in selecting the suppliers who can be the least possible, with the least possible carbon footprint.
Yeah, and in our case, we get lots of somewhat call them demands from our biopharma partners who are expecting us to have no single-use plastics involved, reduction of water, reduction of carbon footprint, all of that, report on all of that. How much are we creating now? So all that's not been a priority, but now we are partnering with them and providing as much data as we can. But there's some things we just can't say, no, we can't go away from single-use plastic tips, such.
So I think the most common challenge that was mentioned by many of you here, starting off when Mark mentioned it, I think Mark has to jump off right now, was the quality and availability. Many of you said that, so I have to believe that if the poll had been working, those would have jumped to the top two. So if we pick, well, in single sourcing. So if we start with availability, can people tell me a little more about that? What's, what is it in specific areas? and how are we dealing with it?
Well, I mentioned it. So talking about availability, one is of course on the comparator sourcing side. We all know about drug shortage. I would even go a little bit further. It's not just drug shortage, it's drug outage for several months. So that's the one part. And then depending on your size, talking about availability is the capacity of the CDMOs you want to work with. How broad is their capacity and to what level can they ensure that you will have access to the capacity that you need to run your clinical trials?
Okay.
It comes down also to renegotiating the contracts or adding the clauses. It's about scheduling, right? How they can fit you in, and fine tuning those type of situations.
And is the cause because if it is a capacity from the supplier's perspective, the cause of this, is it because you inherited this mess, so to speak, where either it was the approved supplier sort of handed to you and said, "Hey, make this work," because no one else, because you were limited in the options of how to deal with it, or is this just or what was the cause of this in most cases?
I would say overall it's a lack of capacity in certain manufacturing or packaging areas, not across all, but especially when we look at sterile products, so sterile fill and finish, PFS, there usually is quite a lack of capacity. So it's a general market problem. And then it's the question, of course, and I don't want to dive into politics, but the latest announcements on tariffs on drug products originating from outside of the US, that will probably even put more pressure on the current situation. So,
Sasha, would you kindly elaborate on the category of products that have this availability problem? It's not across the board, right? Considering
no, as I said, for me, it's like if you talk about biologics, sterile fill and finish, talking about pre-filled syringes, when you go onto the commercial side, probably if you're moving into auto injectors or drug device combinations, there are still limited capacities in the market. When we talk about regular oral solid dose, if it is for blistering, bottling, I think there are sufficient capacities, but the growth of the biologics market is driving quite a demand into or in front of the current providers. And I mean, the success of the obesity products have put this market under additional pressure, taking away general resources from the market with the acquisition of Catalent by Novo Nordisk Holdings, for example. I'm not sure if everybody agrees, but that's at least what I see in the market.
Yeah. I have to say, I didn't know if in my last job if we were unique or not, but it's sounding like from what you said, maybe we were not as unique as I thought. And by that, I mean, with our drug product manufacturing, much of which was outsourced, they wanted lead times of minimum of 6 months, in some cases 9 months. And if you were under that lead time fence, you had to trade and say, well, if you want to fit this fill in, you have to take out a fill of another product. So is that something that is happening in other companies besides the one I was at? And is it the result of a lack of fill finish capacity in the industry?
I think consistently you see terms that require you to book 6 months out
Yeah.
across the CDMO industry. So it's very
Easily.
very standard.
Yeah.
I think there is sometimes difference, you know, whether you need a dedicated suite or not, just for your company. That's another thing that you can negotiate or plan ahead.
Okay. Are there specific areas where the single sourcing seems to be more prevalent than in others?
Cell and gene therapy.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike, how about with what you're dealing with? Any single sources?
No, not really. I mean, we're we're different probably from a lot of other people on the call in that we're on the provider side on the trials. So, you know, when clients come to us and tell us who they want to use, you know, that they might be single source, but that's who they want us to use. So that's who we use. But
Okay.
for stuff that we're buying and where we control what suppliers we're using, we work very hard to make sure we're not single sourced.
Okay. How about with you, Ken?
In terms of supply issues, Bill?
Single source supplies.
Single source?
Are there particular areas where that's more prevalent than others?
So I guess I think in all the different commodities and areas that we manage at Takeda, all my category manager colleagues, I think there's some element of single source, especially on the production materials, direct material side. It's when you get into custom and some more on the single use side, at least from what I've seen, that you know, you're kind of creating that kind of a single source there, although you might be able to branch it out to, depending on what the components are, to other suppliers. But yeah, I think it's broad-based. I think the biggest challenge we have is implementing second sources, getting resources to work on that. The business is always very busy about, you know, making product and doing other things. It's getting the resources to really invest and being able to build that business case. And we have been successful in the last couple of years building some business cases internally for making change. But there's always more change to make than there are resources available. So it's kind of picking and choosing.
Okay, thank you, Ken. So we have I'd like to consider almost 20 subject matter experts on the phone that probably have a combined amount of experience of hundreds of years of strategic sourcing, purchasing, and so forth. Does anybody on the call, and I'm hoping many of you do, have questions that you want to ask the audience of, you know, how do you deal with such and such a situation?
Battery accounts.
You can do it with it.
Not sure. Go ahead, Marina.
I'm curious to know how much opportunity, how easy for you is to get into R&D, material planning or product sciences before it goes into manufacturing, right? To preclude a single source. So how far ahead you can be involved in that with that unfortunate future of single source in mind, and also how much you can influence your current suppliers through the innovation clause in contracts to help you expand or go away from the single source. So how involved are you in PD process, material selection?
Yeah, Marina, I think that's a great question. I'm going to rephrase your question.
Okay.
In some purchasing organizations, they have a difficult time getting out of their office or cubicle. They're either on the phone dealing with vendors, putting out fires, and therefore don't know what's going on in their in their pipeline, to the point where if there's early stage products that the R&D folks are working on, their only visibility to it is they see a Sigma order, not realizing that that's a potential raw material or a filter order or whatever the case may be. So, so the question I have, which I think you're asking, Marina, is how have you folks gotten closer to the action so you know what rocks to look under to find out what is a potential raw material for a potential new product?
Yep.
Is it teams, are there project teams that purchasing has a representative? Or is it simply somebody walking around to the various department heads and picking their brains? Because my sense is that type of information isn't being handed to you in a silver platter. You got to go hunting for it.
Yeah.
So maybe a part of that question could be, is there a structured process for that? Is there a standard weekly meeting that says, this is in our case, it's the sustain and support part of tech dev of what project do we need to prioritize? Well, we really need to have a larger scale of that. Is that more important than qualifying something else different in here? So procurement is very much involved with that and stays very close to our technology development team, both for their benefit and our benefit. If they talk to suppliers by themselves, it's a little bit of chaos on the procurement side. So maybe that's a question for people to think about. How structured are they in that process?
Yeah. I think that's a good topic of conversation for our next call. It'd be interesting to hear how companies deal with that, because I'm sure it's not a unique problem to Marina.
And quality is a great partner in this, right? Early on. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you hand in hand with quality? I know Mary Kaczynski's not on this call. She's on vacation, but I consider her an SME when it comes to writing the book in terms of getting purchasing and quality hand in hand in terms of supplier selection and supplier evaluation.
Yep.
Okay, gonna go back to the slides. I didn't spend time on today's time to talk about charter because I think we needed to kind of understand a little more about each other and what what we want to accomplish, what areas we're responsible for. So at our next call, I think we'll take a deeper dive into, is this charter adequately represent what this steering committee should be all about? And wanted to end the call with this last slide, which is wanted to see people okay with the first Thursday of the month for future meetings. And if that's the case, I would propose December 4th and February 5th at the same time, 8 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay.
So are folks okay with that?
Works for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So thanks again. One thing that I'm sure that we'll notice after the next call is today I think was a little challenging in the beginning, but the poll not working. Again, I apologize for that. But for some of you who are new to the steering committee and BSMA, going back to people like Mark Buck and Paul Anderson and Mike Mitchell, they were actually part of the similar steering committee 15 years ago. And now we're all family. And my hope is that you'll all be part of this sort of family and rely on each other, not just during the steering committee calls, but you'll feel comfortable reaching out to these folks, for whatever challenges and issues you have, even outside of this particular meetings.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good start, Bill.
All right. Okay.
call, Bill.
Oh, and Tim Jordan, I forgot to mention you. You're one of the old timers too.
Yeah, I was on there. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. A few of us are a little grayer than when 15 years ago. And if Mark was on the line, I would nudge him by saying, and some have less hair than before. Okay. Any final words of before we sign off?
Stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm glad it's
Okay.
going well.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. So I'm signing off.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye,
Have a
everyone.
good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.